Packers, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We got a week of distance learning here, and we found out, right, which we aren't surprised by, but it's always good to get the official details that we're going to push this out here through for the rest of the year, distance learning, as the right thing to do to try to keep the inevitable spread of the coronavirus limited for as long as we can, so we can kind of, as a plan, a society plan for that. If we can see Minnesota is going to slowly start to open up its economy, which means some businesses and jobs are going to be open um, moving forward. And we're just going to kind of take it day by day. But the decision was made that schools obviously will be doing this distance learning thing for the rest of the school year. Super sad for a lot of reasons, right? Number one, we had this great year. We had this really good thing. The class of 2022 was really clicking and growing. And now we're going to do all that celebrating and that growth apart from one another. So there were a lot of teachers on Friday that were really sad because it was finally official that this is going to be the way that we're going to be connecting for the rest of the year. Um, and I was bummed too because I really enjoy working with you and seeing you every day, and it's really hard for me um, to not have 150, 160 people to talk to every day. So that part was a bummer. The flip side, we did get some good weather, so that was a positive thing as well. And you're going to get this nice little bubble here as we as teachers kind of recommit to this longer distance learning time. So you'll have a long weekend again, which will be nice. So a couple of short weeks, no school for you on Friday, and then next Monday, which will help you relax a little bit, hopefully, and help us kind of be ready to go the rest of the way into June. Speaking of that, today would be a mental health Monday if we were in class. And we had those 4 skills that we worked on. We worked on focused breathing. We worked on expressing gratitude. We worked on reflection. And then we worked on physical movement. Obviously, all those things you can do whenever. You don't need me to assign it. But I was doing some reading and listening over the weekend to this brilliant social scientist named Brene Brown. And she said these are 3 things you should do when you're doing something new, right? Whether it's in sports, a new play, or in music, a new piece, or a new play, or in this case, something totally new, distance learning. And so she has these 3 tools to deal with new things because new things are always hard. I can't think of a new thing, I guess, new flavor of ice cream, not hard, but otherwise, new things are hard. So the first thing she said to do is to normalize it, which just means say what's happening. We've never done this before. We've never done all online school. So you have to say it and recognize that it's never been done before, and that is going to be hard. Put it in perspective. Even if this part is hard, there are other things that are going well for you, and that could be hard for some of you, but for others of you, it's really easy and be like, oh, well, actually, I'm still really able to be helpful to my younger siblings, or I'm still able to read the books that I want to read, or play the music that I want to play, or be active outside, or I'm still able to connect with my friends on FaceTime, Snapchat, whatever you're doing. So put it in perspective that as hard as distance learning is for some of us, it's not the only thing. Now, some of us have a lot of problems that are stacking up during this time. But again, this is not going to last forever. Already, we're seeing changes, we're seeing shifts. So that's the reminder that this is not going to last forever. Put it in perspective. And then lastly, have a reality check and say, okay, this is going to be hard for a while, or a reality check saying, this is going to be something different. But guess what? Everybody's going through it. So it's not as if you individually are going to be in trouble for these challenges because we're all going through them together. So just a Mental Health Monday reflection. The do now, super simple. Just would you rather do a long workout or a short, intense workout? And that's not a great analogy, but kind of thinking about what we're going to look at today, which is the dropping of the atomic bomb. Okay. So I think that's it for reminders that I want to get through with you. And that's your do now question. Okay. The assignment for today is going to ask you to look at the decision that the United States made at the end of the war to drop an atomic bomb. Now, we have, because of time and this distance learning thing, really neglected a key aspect of World War II, which is the fighting in the Pacific. In fact, I forgot to mention it, but on one of my slides earlier when I talked about the battles, I talked about, I put a picture that was not of a battle we talked about. And I was supposed to say, just a reminder, there's all these other battles going on in the Pacific, in Asia, even in Australia. We aren't going to go in depth into them. We have some great footage. I have some great kind of class discussion pieces, but they just don't really fit in. But just know that some incredible fighting, and incredible in a bad way, was going on in Japan and nearby. So after the Battle of Bulge, Hitler is essentially weakened. The fighting focus turns over to Japan, and the fighting is brutal. Inch by inch, sand dune by sand dune on these little islands, the American and Allied troops are struggling. And Japan, as we read, makes no attempt to surrender, even though they lose and they lose and they lose. They aren't going to quit. So this decision that has to be made is whether or not to use this tool that was invented. Now I'll post this clip just so you can kind of get a sense. It's a weird clip with weird music and sort of like a weird conspiracy theory message, which I'm not endorsing, but it does show what these atomic bomb tests looks like. And you can go down a rabbit hole on YouTube to look at more of these tests. But what I want you to do on this assignment is simply look at these written sources, read this one page. Note you do not have to look at the visual images. They are not pretty. Instead, you can skip those and just use the written sources. That's totally fine. But just be aware if you use the visual images that they made choices. So there may be some bias involved in what choices they chose to show or what choices they chose to publish. And it's optional because they're disturbing pictures, some of them. And then there's just 2 posts that you have to make. There's no requirement. Usually I've had you do 3 posts and we've done phenomenally. But on this one, simply need you to make these 2 posts right here after and including information from one of the sources. So the only things I want to draw your attention to is always recognizing that people much smarter and more knowledgeable than you and I still disagree on this question about what to do with the atomic bomb. So in other words, everybody has a fair answer. An intelligent person can passionately believe their perspective, but you have to acknowledge that the other side is valid, is logical. You don't have to agree with it. You can think they're wrong, but we have to accept these other viewpoints, particularly on a question as complex as this. And then your opinion has to include a fact from the sources and your opinion. I think that's it for you today. Looking forward to, over the next 2 weeks, trying to connect individually again now that we kind of work through some of this World War II stuff. But I wanted to make sure we had this opportunity. And note that the deadline is Wednesday, because if you're watching this at night, you don't know this, but I had some technical difficulties getting this stuff posted. So we do Wednesday. Today's Monday. It'll be due Wednesday at midnight. So thanks. Email me questions. Send me messages. I hope you're well. I care about you. Take care.